I was watching an online session by Guy Finley. Those of you who don't know who Guy Finley is, he's another great spiritual teacher, and he does online live sessions on, I believe, Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays, or something like that. Friday maybe, but mostly Wednesdays and Sundays. And he said something in today's session that really resonated with me, and that is, life is, let me say this right, life never stops starting over. Life never stops starting over. Something like that. And I love that because it's true. Life never stops starting over. You know, you always say, well, I'm starting over today. I'm going to ditch the past, or, take what I've learned, like I've always talked about, trash the memory but keep the lesson. I'm going to take what I've learned and start over starting today, or today I'm starting over, and that's it. But here's the thing. We're constantly evolving, so you're going to keep starting over. Not that each time you start over, you forget everything from the previous starts, but you're always starting over because the past is just a concept. Now, granted, in this 3D realm, we keep records, and your past is, I guess, can be seen as written in stone, which is, it's kind of funny to me because, like, I always talk about how people look at us, well, look at you from a past point of view, a past lens, and we're guilty sometimes of doing the same thing. I mean, sometimes, a lot of times, we look at people through past lenses because that's all we have to go on, even if it's not malicious, And it's funny because if we could just realize that, granted, there are individual situations, but if we can realize that many, many times, not every time, but in many cases, that past lens needs to be thrown away. I know people will say, yeah, but you need the past to make informed decisions about the future and all this other stuff. And while I do understand that, just as many times it's been not successful doing that. So again, we have to decipher that. But in this dimension of keeping records and sometimes holding people's past against them, we have to remember that life never stops starting over, and that may be very hard for people to do. I understand that, but that's all part of the healing process too, And like I said, again, don't get me wrong. There are things that some people have done to where it would be a lot more difficult to forgive. Remember the video I did earlier on forgiving and forgetting? I totally get that. I totally get it. I guess the thing with that is, and now I'm getting on another tangent here, but I guess the whole thing to that is, if it's a situation where someone's done something that's very hard to forget, I guess in a case like that, the best thing to do would be to acknowledge it, accept that it happened, make an informed decision because of it. And if it's something that's that, irrecoverable, if that's a word, then try to release the triggers that come with it. You know what I mean? Because that's where you have to take responsibility. It's one thing to acknowledge if somebody did something really, not so great in the past to you. But even if you don't forget it, so to speak, because again, that's very hard to do. I guess as long as you are looking back on it, and it's very hard to do. I understand this, but without the triggers, because that's the only way you're truly going to heal. You know what I mean? And, That person played that role in this lifetime, in this timeline. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you have to release as much as you can. Your mental health depends on it. Your physical health depends on it. A lot of our physical issues are from unresolved healing, unresolved, memories, or it's funny because it goes both ways. Health issues come from stress about the future, and they also come from stress about the past. Okay? And again, it's all about transmutation, alchemizing, making the best of that situation no matter what it is. And again, I'm not saying let those people back in your life, but again, getting back to what Guy Finley said, what I was trying to say in the beginning. Life never stops starting over. So whenever you have an opportunity to start over, I'm not saying wipe the slate clean of everything, Like, for example, there are a handful of events in my life where I would say, from that day on, like, I'll take one. I'm just gonna say, like, all right. I had one in my head. Like, okay, like when I was a child when my dad passed, but when my mom passed, remember 10 years ago, a part of me says, I became a different person, from before she passed to after she passed. Of course, there's a lot of things in between, It's not just like a switch, it's like, it's an evolution process. And then there's other events where I say, after that event, I became a different person in that realm. After that event, I became a different person in that realm. So it's all different categories of your life where certain events could happen, where you become a different version of yourself based on that event. So you're starting over constantly. I hope this makes sense. You're starting over constantly, It's like if somebody, has an unhealthy, lifestyle and they get ill or they, God forbid, have a heart attack or something along those lines. And then after that day, they make changes. Now, granted, there's a lot of gradual things that have to be done in the process before and after the event. But the point is that person would look back, let's say they made a crap load of changes, they became super healthy, and they extended their life because of it. They could say, I became a different person from the day before that happened, that event, that health event happened, to the day after it happened. Again, I became a different person from when I lost this person to after I lost that person. Or I lost my job. I was a different person before I lost that job. Then I became, than to what I am after I lost that job. Like, it taught me something, So you're starting over in different facets of your life, and they're happening simultaneously. It's not just one unilateral timeline. See, we think too much in one line. There's multiple lines happening, multiple facets of you that are happening all at once, And if you just want to take it at a practical 3D level, in this life, you could say, well, there's a relationship part of you, a relationship facet of you. There's a family facet of you. I guess that could be the same thing. There's a financial facet of you. A professional facet of you, meaning your work ethic, your career, which is not the same as financial, by the way. We think it is, but it's not. There's a health facet of you. You see what I'm saying? Like your lifestyle habits. Yeah, there we go. But let me do this. Speaking of starting over, how appropriate is this? I have to start the car so you can see me again. Great metaphor. But again, you are starting over constantly in different facets of your life. It's not just one linear timeline, one unilateral thing. So when Guy Finley says, well, this video is going a lot longer than I thought it would, but when Guy Finley says life never stops starting over, nothing could be more true. The thing is, there's certain things when you start over, you're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, like I said before in other videos. You know, your evolution in one area can stay, but in something else, you're starting over there. You see what I'm saying? It's like a sports team, like a football team. I'm rebuilding the offensive line. I'm rebuilding the defense. I'm rebuilding the special teams. I'm changing the quarterback. You're not throwing the whole team away. You're just changing little parts. So, hope that makes sense. But yeah, life never stops starting over. Guy Finley, he's great. Otherwise, I'll see you later. Bye.